Well, good morning. This morning we read from Proverbs chapter 30, verses 11 to 23. And again, in the scattergun approach of Proverbs, we will pick up one or 2 points. Those who are pure in their own eyes, and yet are not cleansed from their filth. Here is a great problem in our world today, and I guess throughout history, where people think that they are righteous. They are relying on their own self-righteousness. But all our righteousness is like filthy rags before the Lord. All of us need to be cleansed from the Lord. None of us is pure in our own eyes, should be pure in our own eyes. None of us is pure in the eyes of the Lord. For all have sinned and fall short from the glory of God. And we need to acknowledge our sin before him and so be cleansed from sin by him. And then there is a couple of verses that warn again about honouring parents. Those who curse their fathers and do not bless their mothers, the eye that mocks the father and scorns an aged mother will be pecked out by the ravens of the valley. And the Lord is really clear. You need to honour your parents and respect your parents. The writer here says there are some things that are just amazing. The way an eagle flies, its majesty gliding on the thermals. The way a snake moves on a rock. The way that a ship handles itself on the high seas. And a young courting couple. The way that they are interplay with each other. All of these things are amazing and are wonderful insights. And then at the end of this passage, the writer talks about 4 things that are remarkable, that are really poor. A servant who becomes king. A godless fool who gets plenty to eat. A contemptible woman who gets married. A servant who displaces a mistress. There is a problem with this. If we read this to say that we are all born into certain stations and there is a class who is designed to rule, and if you come from the servant class, you shouldn't ever be allowed to become king or ruler. It negates the idea that all are created with gifts and talents and should use them where they like. In fact, it's a kind of caste system. It ties people into a caste forever, but I don't think that's how it should be read. I think this passage, a servant who becomes king and a servant who displaces her mistress, should be read like this. That to each of us, God has given us gifts and talents, and we need to use them where God wants us to use them. And it's not that you are born into a certain family, but it is the gifts that God has given you that depend where you should be. It's a terrible thing when someone who should be a servant becomes a ruler. They don't have the skills or talent for it. And we see it in church. Those who God has called to serve want to become the pastor and commander of the people of God. And it's a terrible thing. It leads churches to ruin. And so we don't read this as we are tied to a certain status into which we are born. But we read this and we say that we should use our gifts where God intended them to be used. Otherwise it becomes a terrible thing. The earth trembles and it can't bear up. The Lord bless you today. Use your gifts as God intended you.